Right, that says we're recording now. Okay, so as I say, this is taken from extracts taken out of this very famous speech that he gives, and we're going to sort of break it up into different parts here and begin to look at the language that he uses to get his message across and to make it highly persuasive. So it begins. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light and hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to the end the long night of captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacle of segregation and the chain of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. And 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corner of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. So we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. Okay, hope you'll agree. Pretty powerful, pretty emotive delivery in this part of the speech. What I'd like you to do for me now on your OneNotes, on your pads, is highlight any words, phrases that you find really emotive, that really impact upon you on an emotional level, that make you think that's terrible, or this is a great thing that he is doing today. So remember back to what we looked at last week with positivity, emotive language that was used to get you to persuade. In this, you'll find that emotional language can also be used in a negative way to try and make your point more persuasive and more powerful. So it's now 11:25. I have you until 11:30. I want you to highlight anything, and just in that box that I read out to you there, anything that you find emotive in that text. Okay, off you go.
Sir,
Yeah. Yes. Hello, what do you want to ask, Mia?
What are we doing, sir?
You're highlighting anything in this box here, yeah, any language that Martin Luther King uses that is emotive, yeah, that makes you react in an emotive way, okay, because that's one of our kind of key features that we look for in persuasive writing, yeah, so you get across the strength and depth of feeling that you might have, okay. Okay, so let's begin to see what Dr. King is doing in this speech here, how he's making it emotional and how he's basically sort of tugging at his audience's heartstrings here. Evan, could you give me an emotive piece of language or phrase that Dr. King uses in this speech here, and just in that opening section?
Millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice.
Yeah, now we've got seared. Yes. Good, good, good. And the flames of withering injustice. Now that is really, really good, isn't it? Now, Evan, do you know what it means what the word seared means?
Painfully burnt.
It is indeed. It is indeed, yeah. Almost as if, again, and think about the whole issue of slavery in America. So that idea of being perfectly burnt, what would that spark off maybe in the memories of his audience? What used to happen to slaves on the plantations so that owners could show that they were belonged to them?
Burn them.
Sorry?
Burn them.
Well, yeah, well, they didn't just sort of burn them, but I mean, again, it's about what did they do to sort of say that slave belongs to me? And again, if you think about it in flames here, that is that Dr. King's
So
talking about. How could you mark
they
somebody?
seared a mark on their skin.
Yeah, so they branded them. Yeah. Yeah, so it goes back to that issue of slavery. Yeah, which is not that long ago, for them in America. And then we have the flames of withering injustice. What does that phrase "withering injustice" mean? Daisy, you any idea? Withering injustice.
Her Wi-Fi's been really bad this morning.
Oh, has it? Okay. Well, since you've come on and yours is obviously working a dream, do you have any idea, Will, what withering injustice means? What sort of
Saying that
images?
it's not. It's saying that it's not fair. And then
Yeah. How is it just not fair, or is it something else?
it's really unfair.
Really unfair. Yeah. Does anybody want to build on that? Anybody want to add anything to that sense of being unfair? If it is unjust, what does that make it? That question goes to Isla. If you say something is unjust, is an injustice, what are you really suggesting?
That it's not fair.
Just that it's not fair, or something else?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, justice means that you want to have something that other people don't have. That other people have, but you don't.
Yeah.
But I don't know what injustice means.
Okay. Matteo, do you want to have a go at that? If a sense of withering injustice.
Does it mean against human rights?
Oh, that's getting, it is beginning to head into that area, isn't it?
So I disconnected from the call. What are we doing?
We're just beginning to annotate and analyse some of the language, the persuasive language and emotive language that Dr. King's using here in his speech, okay? And what we're focused on at the moment, Evan came up with the first one, that image about being seared in the flames of withering injustice, and we're just focusing on that phrase, withering injustice, right now. Okay? And welcome back.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's that again, that sense of it being against human rights, the law itself. Whoops.
So
Yeah.
to wither means to fall into decay or decline.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very good. Yeah. So I mean, again, and it talks about what's happening to them as a people. They are falling into a decline here, and what Dr. King is talking about here, isn't it? It's a sense that the law itself is unfair and unjust, which in turn means that what's wrong with society?
It's decaying.
Going backwards, and for one group of people, it is just unfair, isn't it? Good. Okay, so that's our first one that we've got there that we had with the sort of emotive language. Shan, what did you highlight as an example of emotive language, or sort of that sort of sense of sort of powerful emotive imagery? What did you select? No, Shan, no. If I can ask that, I've asked that question then. Isla, what did you highlight? Can you give me a word or a phrase that you thought was really powerful?
Captivity.
Oh, very good. Yes, yes. Now, why did you focus on that?
Because it's like being trapped.
Good. Yes. Anything else? If you talk about captivity, does it make you think of anything else?
Well, you're like being forced to do it against your own will, aren't you?
You are. And what do we normally talk about being kept in captivity?
Animals in zoos.
That's it. Yeah. Was that you, Evan, that spoke up there?
Yes.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it? It sounds like good.
Sir,
Yes.
You keep glitching out.
Sorry about that. I have got it being recorded, so hopefully, any issues you might have, if you just listen back to the lesson, it should come through loud and clear. It might just be that I'm getting my own kind of little bits of Wi-Fi issues. I mean, again, for me as well, some of you come through really powerful, others a little bit quieter, that sort of thing as well. I think this is the issue that we're all beginning to have a little bit. We found this the last time with our remote learning. But we're just trying to sort of persevere on it a little bit, hopefully. Okay. Right. So again, good point there raised by Isla. You know, that idea of captivity, and humans being treated here like animals. So again, very emotive bit to an argument going on there. Okay. Ethan, what have you got highlighted, please? Any word, phrase, image?
I've got but not 100 years ago later on the second paragraph.
Ah, yes, good. Right, okay. Now, why did you choose that, Ethan?
Because it's showing you like the future in the way. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's showing you how the situation's changed 100 years later.
Yeah, and has it changed?
Not really.
No.
A bit.
And this is again, he's saying, you know, even although this was done 100 years ago, nothing has changed. Yeah, good. You know, and that's a pretty long time, isn't it? 100 years for nothing to have changed for the better. And if you go right back, this links right to the opening here. Because 100 years is this. What's a score? Let's think about our maths.
20 years.
20 years. So again, 5 score years. That's 5 times 20 is what?
100.
100. Yeah.
Years.
So it's just another way that he's used to say 100 years, and then he comes back in that second paragraph, as Ethan said, you know, that 100 years later, nothing has changed. It's still the same, and you can begin to see that he repeats that, doesn't he? As one of his uses of repetition again, because we had it 100 years, and he'll do it again 100 years, and yet again 100 years. Really reinforcing that point home, that this passage of time has taken place and nothing has changed. Okay, good.
So I have another word.
Who would that? Was that be you, Will?
Yeah.
Discrimination.
Right, Will.
Discrimination. Yes, that is very good, isn't it? Because now, why did you choose that? What made you pick that one out?
Because it's pretty much saying that it's not equal. Nothing's equal, and it's not fair.
Yeah. It's not equal and it's not fair. And if you look at the image as a whole, he talks about the chain of discrimination. Why do you think he talks about the chain of discrimination, Will?
Because there's lots of it.
Yeah, we can think about lots of it. Anybody else think about why Dr. King used the phrase chain of discrimination?
The chains that the slaves had to wear.
That's it. Again, it's harkened back to the days of slavery, isn't it? Oops. Yeah, so again, he's reminding his audience, yeah, that this is still an issue. It's not going away. It's not going away. And again, it's about this unfair. And again, if you discriminate upon someone or something, what do you do if you discriminate against somebody? Well, if I can come back to you because you picked this word out initially, what is it you? On you go.
Say how bad they are and carry
Yeah,
on and like equaling them out from the other people.
that's it. Yeah,
It's something just based on their characteristics, like their skin color.
that's it. Good, good, good. Yeah, and it's just that sort of picking out that sort of sense of difference about them, isn't it? And again, all really powerful language that's been used here. Okay. Matteo, if I can come to you, what have you got highlighted that you found really powerful, really emotive, really persuasive?
Languishing, like.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got that in case people haven't saw that one. Yeah. Yeah, languishing. Now, what do you do if you're languishing?
Failing to make progress.
Yeah, so you fail to make progress, and it's again it's the whole sort of phrase, isn't it? Languishing in the corner of American society. What does that suggest about how these people are faring in American society? Are they making progress, or is something else happening to them? Do you think, Matteo?
They were because they're like forced into corner. They're not allowed to flourish.
Good. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Good way to express it. Yeah, it's this lack of being able to flourish or fulfill potential, that sort of thing. And if you just languish somewhere, you've just been left behind. You've just been dropped off into the corner, forgotten about. Yeah. So that's a good one to pick out there. Thank you for that, Matteo. Okay. Poppy. Is there anything that we haven't highlighted yet that you've got highlighted on your bit of text?
No, I've only got that.
Right, that's okay. Right, Emily, want to chip in now with anything that we haven't sort of highlighted yet? You thought, oh, but this is really important. This is really powerful and emotive and persuasive.
It says a shameful condition.
Yes, good. Shameful condition. Yeah. What made you select that? What made you highlight that?
Because it's just that bad that yeah.
Yeah, if you bring shame to something, what if you've got a sense of shame, what does that suggest?
It's not something to be proud of.
That's it. Very good. Not something to be proud of here. And again, is he just talking about individuals here, do you think, or is he talking about American society?
American society.
Yeah, isn't it? It's the bigger, isn't it? It's the bigger picture here. It's not just about the individual. Okay. Anybody, anything else that you think we should pick out?
An exile in his own land.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Is that you, Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Now, why do you think that's important?
Because like he's American.
Yeah.
And he should be like treated just like anybody else, but he's treated like an exile because of the color of his skin.
Yeah. And what does it mean to be treated as an exile?
Like treated like you don't really belong there.
Yeah, that's it. You're not part of their society. You're not part of the general population. All of those things, isn't it? That's being suggested here. Very good. Okay.
Sentence. It means like sent away in his own land.
Yeah. And so he's been made to feel like an outcast, outsider, all those sorts of things. Very good. Very good. Okay.
I've got one more.
Okay, right. Whoever that was that said they got one more, let's hear it.
The Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty.
Yes, yes, we've got an island of poverty. Yeah. Now, what made you
shows that they literally have nothing.
good that they have got nothing, that they're living in this, this really terrible existence, isn't it? That nothing at all. And what makes it worse, isn't it? He contrasts it because they're living in poverty, but what are others living in at the exact same time?
Luxurious lives.
Yeah, and if you just go along that same line, we see that, isn't it? Here is a deliberate use of contrast. And he says, he lives in a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. We're back in 1960s America. What were people meant to be following in that time? That showed that they were becoming successful. Do you know the phrase that's used?
That they even had slaves.
Not so much. If we're thinking about prosperity, that means you're succeeding. Yeah. And what he's really hinting at here.
So doesn't prosperity mean ridness?
Prosperity means that you're successful, that you're getting wealth. Yeah. Have you heard of the phrase "the American dream"? Yeah. No.
From
Anybody?
Obama.
Sorry.
Was it Obama who said that or something?
No. This goes way back. The American dream. The American dream, roughly, and it goes back to the whole kind of Statue of Liberty inscription when the immigrants used to come into America. And it was this idea that you could start off in poverty, but through hard work, you could work your way up, from job to job to job and all that sort of thing. And you become rich and you become successful so that anybody from the poorest background to the richest could aspire to be president of the United States or whatever, or head of Twitter or Facebook and all those sorts of things. It's meant to be that it was open to everybody. And that's what Martin Luther King is hinting at here when he talks about that. Because the 1960s was seen as a great time of sort of economic prosperity for an awful lot of people, and he's saying, well, it isn't. If you're black in America, if you are still, suffering in this island of poverty, and so he's showing that sharp contrast in American society at that time that is going on there. Okay, good. Anything else that we can take out of that opening couple of paragraphs there that we haven't highlighted so far that we think, ooh, that's emotive, that's powerful?
Just the word slaves is quite.
Yeah, the word slaves, yeah, that is very emotive, isn't it?
Segregation.
Yeah, takes back to all those sorts of ideas, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, boop. And then if you just put that, yeah.
So doesn't I don't know. I don't really want to say the word, but the word before slaves that Will said, isn't that kind of strong?
Oh, it is, and again, it's used in that way deliberately because it is what you would call, it's highly emotive. It's a very loaded phrase, and there's all those different connotations that go with it. That harkens back to it's harkened back, isn't it, to the days of slavery, and he's shown that things haven't changed that much since it was meant to be, the Emancipation Proclamation, which was signed in 1863, was meant to make all slaves free. And again, he's shown at this point, no, it's not. Things are still pretty bad. Okay, good. Anybody get anything else that they think we need to highlight before we move on?
Could you have shadow?
Yeah. Well, again, the symbolic shadow, isn't it? Yeah. Why do you think that? What made you be drawn towards that?
Because they're like, it kind of, because like when you're a shadow, nobody knows who you are.
Very good.
That's what they are, basically. Well,
Oh,
they want them. They want to be the people that you don't know about.
Oh, I like that. That's good. You know, so that's sort of standing in the shadow there. Yes, good.
Sir,
Yes.
what about a manacle? It's like handcuffs, basically.
That is it again. Yeah, the manacles there. Exactly. It means that they are bound, isn't it? And again, he's got that. If you complete the phrase that it goes with, it is that manacle of segregation. Yes, the manacle of segregation there. So I mean, again, going back to the time of slavery, it ties in, doesn't it, with the chain of discrimination, those sorts of ideas. Again, very emotive. Yeah, good. And again, if we just jump back again. To the idea of shadow as well as standing in shadows. It can be that it's that idea about a shadow being cast over their lives here as well. And again, the great American that he's talking about, he's making this speech in front of Abraham Lincoln, the big statue that's outside Congress of Abraham Lincoln. And that is what he's up about here, because again, it was Lincoln who signed that Emancipation Proclamation. Okay. Right, I think we've got near enough everything. There's a couple of others which are quite positive. Just want to make sure if anybody can pick them out. There's a couple in that first paragraph where we can look, and it's positivity this time rather than negativity. Can anybody see the ones I'm thinking about?
Momentous.
Yeah, again, we've got momentous, so that would be a good thing, isn't it? If something is momentous, that means, yes, it is a great
beacon of light and hope.
Yes, and again, we have the great beacon of light and hope. Something, and again, that is hinting towards what does the Statue of Liberty? What does she have in her hand?
Is it like
A torch.
A torch.
Yeah, that's it exactly. That sort of big idea about the light that's been spread out over the land, sort of thing. Yeah, very good. Yep. And one other in that opening paragraph. What about the
joyous daybreak?
That's it. The joyous daybreak. Yeah. Okay, so you can see that very deliberately here, he sets up initially that opening paragraph. He puts sort of positivity into it, saying, "Oh, this legal document, it was signed many years ago, 100 years ago, which was meant to end everything." So that first paragraph is saying this was the positive change that was made. It was about the joyous daybreak. So it's the end of slavery. But the second paragraph, that is the contrast to say, actually, no, nothing's changed. And that is kind of clearly symbolized by the beginning, isn't it, of that second paragraph, because he uses but. That's what's going to signal the change here, saying, yeah, we should have been full of hope. We should have had lots of positive change. However, 100 years later, no, we haven't. This is what the reality is actually like. So he's comparing and contrasting, really powerful, really good. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to break for 20 minutes where you do some private reading, because on a double lesson each week, what we will do is we'll have a 20-minute section in it where we do our own private reading. Okay. So what I want you to do now for the next 20 minutes is to go off and do your own reading of the book that you're reading. You might be reading right now. Now, those of you who have made your account on Goodreads, obviously what you can do is update your reading record in that. After the 20 minutes, you can say what page you're on in the book that you're reading if you pop that onto your bookshelves. If not, what I want you to do is just to take a picture for this week. What I want you to do is take a picture of the page that you're starting on in the book that you're reading. Maybe give me a picture, a front cover of the book that you're reading, and then the page that you're starting on. And at the end of the 20 minutes, just record again how far you've got in those 20 minutes.
Does it matter if the book isn't on accelerated reader?
No, it doesn't matter if it's not on accelerated reader. That's why I began to open up so you can put things onto. If you use the Goodreads, it's pretty good in being able to locate books that people might be reading. It seems to have a much vaster database, and so if you pop that onto your bookshelf, you can then show how much you've read. Yeah, who was that?
Me. I've only
Mia.
just found a book that I'm actually like interested in.
Okay, that's all right. Did you say you just found one that you're interested in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you get 20 minutes now. So it's just going up to 12 o'clock. So we say, and again, you can drop out of the lesson this time. I'll call you all back into the lesson at 20 past 12, where we'll have the next little slot that will take us up to lunchtime. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And I'll see you at 20 past 12 again.
Bye.
Okay. Happy reading. All right.